Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? I wanted to do this. As you see, do women know what to do with high value men? Or do they just squander them? I think this is a bigger question than people realize. How's everyone this afternoon? Like as you come in, hit the like. Let's get YouTube catching us in their algorithms. Share this video because this is the conversation that's been missing. Lots of people talking about the high value man. We're going to take this from a very different perspective so that we can get some more reality on it. So, lots of talk about high value men. Lots. Everyone's talking about the high value man. But do we really understand the dynamics that are happening between women and the high value man? So this is one of those conversations that I don't think I've heard anyone address it from the perspective that I'm going to address it today. So like this video, appreciate everyone who's commented and followed me, who supports me. Always love the support. If you haven't found me on Patreon, I have some really good content over there. Check me out. I appreciate the support. You guys have been giving me great support lately. You see my Cash App and PayPal. You also have the Super Chat. So your support, always greatly appreciated. And it allows me, it actually allows me to keep giving you content that's valuable. And I want to do stuff that's from a perspective that most people are not looking. So lots of people say they want to make you think. But my commitment is really that men have a new level of power that our society hasn't been given to men. And it's also an opportunity for women to open their eyes and see something that they haven't seen about men and to learn things that they haven't. And we live in a society where men are actually condemned for really speaking the way they want. So it's not that I'm a martyr or a sacrificial lamb. There are things that I've been saying for decades, and social media, YouTube has now provided a platform to make it more public. So I'd like to share these things, and then as time moves on, you hear things, you have conversations, and you get new perspectives. So this is a perspective that is much clearer. You've heard me allude to stuff like this, but I'm going to make a case. I'm going to make a case for why most women in the US are feminists, even though they claim they are not. And also make the case that, and while doing that, you'll see that the feminist really hasn't been raised, educated, and prepared, developed for a high value man. And it's why so many women squander, and they keep saying, well, there aren't any good men out there. So I have put some real thought into this. And I'd like to engage you in the chat. If I say something that doesn't make sense, let me know. But if you think about it, for decades we've been listening to women and they claim they deserve the high value man. Lots of women. And you ask them why. Why do you deserve? They tell you I'm educated, I have a great job, I'm feminine. I asked a woman once and she said, kind of shyly, coy, and said, well, you know why. You know what you get from me. And so that comes down to what? Sex. And the sex is enough for a high value man. Perhaps women don't really understand the kind of commitment required to be in a real relationship with a high value man. And I am going to lay that out as to why most women don't understand that. You know, women just say, I want the guy who earns 6 figures, stands 6 feet tall, has his head together, physically fit, 6-pack. You know, do those guys exist? Sure they do. Question is, after most women get a man like that, what does she do with him? Does she squander her time with him? What's going on, Chris? Thanks for joining. Yeah, I want to get into this whole women claim they want high value. Are they just really squandering them? Yeah. And more women are feminists than they claim. A lot of women say they're not feminist. Most women in the US are. So I want to look at that, but I also want to look at the only reason feminism is alive is because of men. I mean, you can go to countries where feminism cannot breed, it cannot breathe, it cannot live. And that's because of men. So where feminism dies, it's because of men. Where feminism lives, it's because of men. So I want to lay that out also. You know, and I just wonder, do women squander their time with high value men because she's trying to prove that how valuable she is, or competing? So are women treating the low value man the same as the high value? And that makes you wonder, does she treat a high intelligence man the same as she treats a low intelligence? Are women treating the faithful man the same as the unfaithful man? Do they know the difference? And we've told women so often that they don't have to do anything because they are the prize and men have to put in all the effort. And she claims none. She doesn't have to because her companionship it should be good enough. So what's up when women say there are no good men? I wonder if women just believe all men are the same. Like a man is a man is a man is a man. It's just a man. He can be in prison. He can be in corporate America making 7 figures, and he's just a man is a man. Yeah, a lot of them do, Chris, but I wonder why some of them don't. Like, what's really behind that? For sure. Especially the ones who are not smart enough. I mean, there are women who catch those guys early enough. But even you think about it, what mindset did she develop before hitting the wall? So will that mindset even be able to attract and retain a relationship with a man? Like, so, you know, you think about it. What are the things we hear from women? You're just a man. You're nothing special. I've heard women say they treat everyone the same, and you know, it seems clear that they do treat all men the same, because what the hell has a woman date a convict and then say there are no good men left? So I want to get down into what's really going on. So these women who date convicts and say there are no good men left, are these women actually doing men a favor? Like you're saying, Chris, post wall, now she's going to do the high value man of favor and give some of her time, her package deal, her and her children. But I wonder, when women try to make everyone equal, what is that saying about women? As men, we have a hierarchy and we understand it. And we as boys know about hierarchies from the time we are in a playground. You have the guy who's fast, you have the guy who knows how to talk to the girls, the guy who's smart, the guy who's strong, the guy who has social skill, like the guy who's good at math, the guy who is the duke of the class, the guy who can fight the best. And we understand the hierarchy, and we function within that hierarchy just fine. And that there are high performers. We go into sport teams. We know who the high performers are, and we respect and honor them. It's women who've tried to do away with the hierarchy and make everyone the same. So women say they want a king, and then they want to treat him like he's a pauper, and then find the pauper and treat him like a king, shower him with all kinds of things. But it's really feminists who want to level the playing field, because if we keep the hierarchy that men created, women couldn't compete with us. They won't put in the hours. They don't have the brain capacity. Their brain neuroscience has their brains go through all kinds of gyrations that are not even happening. That becomes inefficient in decision making and leadership. Yeah, right. See, what does that say about women when they do that? Like, women are telling us stuff in everything they do and what they ask, what they don't ask, even the things they don't do. See, feminists want to get rid of the hierarchy. If they can make everything flat, level the playing field where the hierarchy, where the high performing man is not rewarded and the low performing man is not at the bottom of the totem pole, they can claim to be equal and just like everyone else because there's no hierarchy. And that way the spotlight is never put on women for their underperformance, because now everyone's equal. And if any man dare say anything about their underperformance, well, you're just a sexist. But the funny thing is, so that allows women to protect their own self-interest. So, and the craziest thing is, women want to be treated equal, and they want special privileges at the same time. Like, you should get leave because you have children, or you're a single mother. You have stress. You can't handle stress like men. You need time off for pregnancy, or you need allowances for your menstrual cycle, all these things. Yeah, that's and maybe that's what men in other countries are doing, is just telling them what to do. So I had some motivation for this show. There in my group, there's a Facebook post that a woman put up, and she asked, if someone was a savant, just so we understand, that she said, if someone is a savant and a unicorn, and so whatever a unicorn is to you, that's what a unicorn is. But a savant means a sage or a learned person. It comes from the French word savior, which means to know. There's an old expression, idiot savant, that's both imprecise and pejorative. But a savant, synonyms with savant are the sage, the intellectual, the master, scholar, expert, genius, wise man, pundit, wise, initiate, clairvoyant. So imagine those words, a wise man, an intellectual, a master, someone who's mastered someone, someone who's mastered things and considered a unicorn, for whatever reason that you call a person a unicorn, and you roll that up into one person. And the question was, should you treat someone who's a savant and a unicorn different than everyone else? Or should they just be treated like just another person? Like, that's this whole equal rights that women want. Everyone's equal. So if you put a guy who's a savant and a unicorn in the workplace, and he's a high performer and women can't keep up with him, well, I guess women, there you go, Chris, they've got to treat him like a eunuch, like he's nothing. I understand he's a unicorn because he's a genius, but imagine if the person is a savant and a genius and a unicorn in other aspects of life, whether it's social or dating. Like, they have these two things: savant, genius in areas, and then a unicorn in the way they handle. I mean, imagine just telling Albert Einstein, you're just another person, right? So this was the question. And the savant is a rare person. A unicorn is rare. So you can be a unicorn without being a savant. And being a savant, you already are a unicorn. And so if you're a unicorn in other areas and a savant, a genius, that's a hell of a person. And feminism would want to just flatten that person out and make them just like everyone else. Just fall in line. Just another drone. So think about it. If you find someone who's both a savant and a unicorn, mathematically, statistically speaking, that's almost impossible to find a person like that. Hey, Skip CO3, what's going on? Thanks for joining. So imagine meeting someone. The question was, should you treat that person differently if you're not dating them? And so you just treat them like everyone else. And imagine a person who has a unicorn, right? They capture the mythical unicorn and actually have them, and you treat them just like anyone else. They look like a horse. A horse is a horse is a horse. They put a plow on them and have that unicorn plow the fields. That's like getting a thoroughbred horse. You pay a lot of money and you use that horse to plow fields. And then someone else gets that same thoroughbred horse and trains him, and he wins a triple crown. Meanwhile, that first person had them plowing fields. Well, I don't know if you worship the person. But do you engage them the same way you engage other people? Whether it's conversation, doesn't have to be worship. But do you just treat them like another person? In the workplace, they can bring more to the table, but I bet in someone's personal life, they can bring more to the person's life also, if you know how to leverage them. See, and that's the point of men having a hierarchy. When men have a hierarchy, we're able to leverage one another. Hey, Joe is good in math. Bob is good with the girls. He can persuade the girls to do something. Kareem is fast. He's the fastest runner. And another guy is, he's good in history or science. And as men, you leverage one another. This is how we build teams. This is how you end up with a football team. Not everyone's the quarterback. Someone's going to be the center. Someone's going to be the running back, a wide receiver. Someone's going to block. Someone's going to play defense. We don't all have to be the same. But you honor that guy who's the quarterback. You don't put him on the offensive line. So if you meet someone who is a unicorn, how do you leverage? Do you just engage them? And as you really think about it, how do women engage men in general? So, you have a savant. This guy is a brilliant in math, and you use him to count beans instead of using his genius in a way that leverages your life, the corporation. So a lot of women are mismanaging relationships. So the extreme case is a savant and a unicorn, but a guy who's a high value guy, he's only going to make up a small percentage of the population. So when you meet a guy who has risen beyond 90% of the population, do you treat him just like he's the bottom 10%? And some women treat the convict better than the bottom 10%, better than the top 10%, until, as you said, they hit the wall. And they'll tell you that they had better chemistry. They felt something better with the convict than they did with the guy who's a high value man, the unicorn. Yeah, a silent Lamont. Yeah, they are some lifestyle that they can't afford themselves. A lot of women have more respect for the player than the guy who actually has ambition and wants to do something in life. And when they meet the guy who actually has ambition, he has a track record of accomplishment, she doesn't even realize she can benefit just by being in conversations with him. This guy has a network. He's done things. So what are women doing? A lot of women, they meet the guy they claim to want and tell him he ain't shit because he's a man and men ain't shit. Well, here's another question that I don't know if guys want to answer this. Are fathers inadvertently teaching their daughters this mindset by telling their daughters to never depend on a man? How many fathers instill collaboration in their daughters? How many teach them how to find that level-headed, ambitious man? Whether you're telling your daughters, go get your education and a job or be an entrepreneur so you'll never need a man. And she has no idea what to do when she meets this high quality, high value man. How many mothers and fathers teach their daughters how to engage and communicate with a high value man? And he doesn't even have to be a savant or a unicorn. He's just a guy who's got his head straight and he's ambitious and he has accomplishments under his belt. And he has a future where he can continue that pattern. Or are we just teaching all women that every man is the same? And if all men are the same, why are women seeking high value men? See, if all men are the same, why do women even brag about being hypergamous? Like, all men are the same. Why do women believe they deserve greater access to a man's resources if we're all the same? I mean, why not just date a low value man if all men are the same? And if she does want a high value man, does she even know what he wants? Does she know what he wants from a woman? Does she know what he wants in a relationship? Does she even care? And what is she offering that would attract and retain a high value man? Just like a company that wants a high performing employee, you have to attract and retain him, salary, and give him some autonomy, some space where he can show his brilliance. Smart, good companies understand that. Just like a good sporting team, you want a guy like LeBron James. How are you going to coach and manage him? What are you going to pay him? Are you going to pay him the same as everyone else? And I wonder, do women even believe they have to offer anything? See, if women believe all men are the same, why doesn't she believe the blue collar guy making $40,000 is right for her? Why doesn't she believe that guy is right for her? Yeah, I know that. Yep, exactly, Silent Lamont. Yeah, that's a big one, Chris. Right. Help me clean up my poor decisions and hide them, finance them so no one will see them. Yeah, Skip03, that's a big problem, women even knowing what they want. So I want to explore the mindset of women today. I also want to explore the mindset of men who have allowed this female behavior to exist in the US. And I'm saying the US because this mindset is a big part of feminism. All men are the same. Men ain't shit. We don't need men. We just need you for your resources. Even though feminism has touched the globe, most places in the world, it's not a problem. Men around the world are not having these same problems. And even some men from different countries that live in the US are not having that problem, even living in the US. So men in other nations, they haven't allowed this entitlement to exist in their homes. And see, my concern is that a lot of guys, even women, are saying that women need to change. I'm going to say something that sounds crazy. No, they don't. Women are going to do exactly what you let them do. It's no different than your teenage child who complains and says, hey, we live in a 3,500 square foot home. I don't like this home. And your teenage child doesn't like the home because they have a cousin who lives in a 10,000 square foot home. I mean, one way to handle your teenager is to say, hey, pack your bags and leave and go get yourself a 10,000 or a 20,000 square foot home. If you don't like our home, you want a home like your cousin or your cousin's parents, pack up and go. And this is the way women need to be treated, the same way. Like that teenage child who's being bratty and saying, this is 3,500 square feet. I have a cousin that has a bigger home. Why don't I have that? You don't have it because you didn't buy it. And see, look, I understand a lot of men have been raised by women. But there's a man in every man that your woman could never teach you or tell you about. Now that's interesting, Chris. Right. So why do they want men they can control? That's another thing, right? So there's something going on in the mind of a woman, and she's not being open about it. But she'll be bratty just like a little teenager. So if you treated women like they were teenagers, you don't like the way things are going, we don't hire you in companies that are founded by men if you don't like it. If we didn't buy you the diamond ring you want, pack up and leave. And see, we're all talking about, well, women need to change and women need to do this. And I've focused very much on what the stand that men take. And it may sound extreme when I say a caveman, but a caveman is not going to allow himself to be manipulated by a woman. He'll dispose of her and go take another woman. I mean, you're a heterosexual male, and I understand we have laws and marriage and child support laws, but there's a different mindset that I'm talking about. Too often guys feel like they're helpless with women. And that's the approach all the way from the beginning, is being a lamb instead of a caveman. Yes, Chris, penis envy. Yeah, I guess they could play dumb. Well, see, that's the job of a man then, to shine the light on it. Right. When the shoe is on the other foot, they don't even want to get married because they don't want to put their assets at risk. And you put the shoe on the other foot, there's some women who will act like a caveman. They will put a man in check. They will pick, like you're saying, Chris, they'll pick a low value man and be a damn caveman to him. They will put their foot on his neck and videotape it and post it. And yet guys we have that in us. We have a biochemistry that allows for that. And if they don't like it, they can pack up and go build their own civilization. There are lots of islands in the world. Pack up and go. See, how many women are going to have the spine to pack up and leave? Women look at us like we've done nothing. Every civilization has been built by men. Thousands of years, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of years. Civilizations have been built by men. And now we look at this world and we try to say, what, a third world country, those women are desperate and don't have anything. There's wealth in every single country. And there are roads in countries and they have skyscrapers. They have industries, they have manufacturing, they have all of this that it's all built by men, not women. And yet, and there are many countries where the women actually honor and respect the men for that. But here they tell us that we think we're entitled because we do all this work and make sure they're safe and have conveniences. And it's what it comes down to is they treat men as a utility. Like you guys are saying, a retirement package, finance their mistakes, their Instagram lifestyle. See, the higher a man's utility, the more desirable. So the utility can be money, it could be his network, it could be his power, but he's a utility. Some it may be his sex. There are lots of women who are using men just for sex. We try to act like that doesn't happen. But women ultimately treat men really like they're not even a human being. But they'll say you're just another human being. You're nothing. You're no one. And for some reason, they believe you as a man are responsible for buying them stuff that they don't even need. That's your utility value. They don't want the responsibilities also, Chris. They don't want to work for it, whether it's in business or in an intimate relationship. They believe they shouldn't have to do anything. We're women. We're here. I'm a woman. Hear me roar. I love to hear you roar. Pack up and go to an island. All of you who believe you don't need men. Right. They want it given to them. See what they've convinced men that you're responsible for buying them stuff, taking them places, and they know you'll do it for sex. Except there are 7.5 billion people on the planet. Most are women, and they all have a vagina. Out of 7.5 billion, what, 4.5 are women? They all have vaginas. They're all capable of having sex. Many of them can give birth if that's what you want. Right. They want you to buy them things they can't afford. And why? Because they have a vagina. So too many guys are bending over backwards for sex and not demanding anything else. But what women are doing is turning themselves into less than a commodity. I mean, look at this Dr. Dre's divorce. He had a prenuptial and she made him submit. It's stuff like that that's making women look like leeches. Yet they want to be treated like human beings, like ladies, and more conducting themselves like leeches. And they are only leeches because men allow this. A lot of guys, and I know it's rough for some guys, but you've let women convince you that women are smarter, they're more mature. Yet, if you look at reality, women really don't look at the big picture or the long-term big picture. If they did, they wouldn't have jumped on the feminism bandwagon. I mean, look at the facts. Women haven't created one industry. They don't commercialize anything. Men do that. Except for some reason, men are disposable and just another human being that can be replaced like they're nothing. So why have men accepted that treatment from women who offer nothing except mediocre sex? Not only are they mediocre looking and provide mediocre sex, they have no track record of doing anything extraordinary. Except they'll tell someone who has a proven track record of doing extraordinary things that person is just another human, just another man who should be treated like anyone else. You're no one. But if you think about what that does for a man's mind, to be engaged constantly with a woman who's telling you you're nothing, you're no one, you're just another person. And if you are that, imagine you are that unicorn and savant, and she's telling you you're just no one except another person. Yeah, I can open it up, Chris. I'm going to open it. I'll open it up. Part of what I'm saying is there are way too many who will never be worthy of accomplished men. Never. Take a guy like Henry Ford. When he met his wife, he was really no one special, except his wife knew how to bring something out of him. She brought something out of him that he wasn't doing on his own, at least not up to that point. So imagine if she had the attitude of a feminist that we're all equal and you're no different than anyone else and you're just another dude who ain't shit, because men ain't shit. He would have divorced her, or he would have bought into her belief system about him, and he would have been no one. There'd be no Ford company, be no Ford Motor Company. So what kind of woman would want to keep an average or below average man? Maybe that's what needs to be explored. And what is a woman projecting when she tells you you're nothing special? What is she saying about herself? What is she afraid of? Are we uncovering why a lot of Black women complain that successful Black men marry other races? Either they do it from the beginning, or they divorce the Black woman and go to a Hispanic, Asian, white. They go somewhere else. Why is that happening? See, what are those women in other races doing, or women in other countries doing, that women here in the U.S. won't do? If you look at Michelle Obama, initially she was completely against Barack running for president. See, that's an example. There's a guy who wanted to accomplish something, and he had a wife whose attitude was, you're no one special, and what makes you think you're going to win? He had to literally convince her that running for president was the right thing. And here these women are saying that they support men. That is not a supportive woman. He had to actually waste his brain power to convince a woman that him running for president was the right thing. And women brag about her. How? Why? What am I missing? Because her mindset is exactly what I'm talking about here. Hey, Chris, I just dropped the link. See, when women work against a man who actually is exceptional, she's actually squandering him. So if I go back to the unicorn and the savant, especially someone who's both, and you're just telling that guy you're just another person, you're literally squandering that man. You're squandering him. So now you get women who say, well, you're no Obama, you're no Einstein, you're no Henry Ford. Why should I treat you differently? If you think about it, all those men I just named were no one at some point. No one knew them. No one cared. Steve Jobs, Thomas Edison, Tesla, all no ones. Except if you think about it, they were always who they were, just the world hadn't seen them yet. So many women are squandering someone who's special because she's attempting to be a feminist and treat him like everyone else and level the playing field as though he's no one. So why would men marry a woman who treats you like everyone else? And then there are those women who say, well, I'll treat you differently if you marry me. And no, it just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way where I'll marry you and then you're going to treat me different. You need to be married. You need to show what you actually have before I would even consider marrying you or committing to you. See, the man marries you because you made yourself stand out from all the billions of women in the world. And if you're a woman who's with a man who stands out and you believe you can treat him like every other human being, you're going to lose him. That woman has the squanderer's mindset. She'll probably justify it by calling him arrogant or something. What's going on, Chris?
What's up, Ted? Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. These women are, at this point, it's just you just can't help but laugh at them. And you're right. Women, they always tell you that if you marry them, they'll become the woman you want them to be, but they're not going to do it until you marry them, right?
Right.
But when you tell them something as simple as, okay, well, if you give me some pussy now, I'll give you a wedding ring next week. They'll be like, no, nope, I want the wedding ring first. Like, these are the same women that go to work every day and know they have to do 40 hours of work before they get their paycheck, but they want you as a man, particularly black men, to give them everything up front before they do any work. It doesn't make sense.
Well, and add to that, Chris, these women, what are these women saying about themselves? Because like Henry Ford was always Henry Ford. Barack Obama was always who he was, and so is Steve Jobs, and the list goes on. Most women do not know how to catch those guys when he's young because they're so busy invalidating him and saying you're no one. But they'll go to the finish line, and then, as you're saying, they're going to demand, well, I'll marry you, but I know you have a lot of money and you need to spend it on me. You need to show me. You need to show me that you're going to treat me like a princess or a queen. But meantime, you're just a utility for me.
Right. And they don't understand that if they don't catch that man when he's young, by the time he hits his stride, they have zero market value.
Exactly.
They just don't understand that, and it doesn't. And then when you tell them, when you try to explain it to them, that's when the shaming tactics come out. And it's like, okay, you can call me a misogynist, you can do everything you want, call me every name under the sun. It's not going to change the outcome.
Exactly. You're still going to have zero market value. You
Right.
shame me, and no man in the world is going to look for you, especially the man you believe you deserve. You have your worth.
And that's why, earlier you were mentioning the blue collar men. Well, they're like, take for instance these rappers. They're effectively like blue collar men. They just get paid. They're basically government funded terrorists, but their mentality is blue collar men, and that's why they have so many baby mamas, and that's where they're so easily manipulated by women. They're just dummies with a lot of money, and that's what women want. Women want a dummy with a lot of money. If you are an intelligent man with a lot of money, she knows that you're going. Number one, you're going to know how to navigate through the shitty ones, and number two, when you do find a good one, you're going to be very careful with your assets. You're going to make sure that she brings some value to your life.
Exactly. So then, what is this saying about women, though?
It's saying that they don't know how to pick shit, that left to their own devices, that they're just children, that they need every decision made for them, because if you don't make the decision for them, you leave them to their own devices, they will make shitty decisions every time, and then just blame them on the nearest man close to them.
Right. If all these men were not so bad, I would be in a great relationship, but it's the man who did it.
Right. Look at it. Okay, you mentioned Michelle Obama and Barack, how she didn't want him to run for presidency. That's simply because once he became the most powerful man in the country, in her mind, she thought it would be hard to control him, hard to manipulate him. But she didn't realize what a big ass simp she married. But I shouldn't even say she, I should say he. But yeah, she just didn't realize that she married the world's biggest simp. But she was threatened by him, becoming, the most powerful man in the country. Look at. I had this conversation the other day with a guy. One thing, and I know this is conversations about all women, but I'm just going to speak about black women for this particular instance. Black women love throwing their degrees in black men's faces, right? It doesn't matter. You can be like, hey, it's 70 degrees outside. I got a master's. What? Bitch, I wasn't even talking about that.
Exactly.
Right. But when it comes to black men with degrees, what do they call black men with college degrees? Educated lames. Right. Now, it's funny how having an education is such a great thing for them, right? It's so great that they get to throw it up in our faces every chance they get. But when they see an educated black man who's financially successful and everything, and he's the ideal man for every other race but them, they call him an educated lame. They are the only group of women who consider their men with high degrees of education lame. How stupid is that? And then they wonder why they're just baby mamas for dope dealers.
So then what does that say about how these women see themselves then?
Honestly, it says that they don't see themselves as anything. They don't value themselves.
Exactly. And so imagine a woman who sees herself as worthless or not valuable, and she meets this guy who she says is a savant and a unicorn. I know you said a savant is a unicorn, but just these are her words. He's a savant and a unicorn, and she sees herself as not being worth much. She may be thinking that she can never keep this guy because she's not worthy of him. So if I can sort of put a cap on him so he doesn't grow out of his britches, I can hold him, which means you're going to be a constraint on that guy.
Right. So here's what they do.
Well, they know. I guess what I'm saying is a lot of women are projecting themselves on men and pretending that it's the guy. So they're projecting that you're an educated lame, you ain't shit, you just have a degree, because she knows her degree really means nothing. That's the only reason she has to keep putting it in your face. Imagine a 10-year-old going around saying, I know how to tie my shoes. Look at that. I can tie my shoes. It's like, oh, okay. Like, we can all tie our shoes.
Right. That's exactly where I was going, though. You see, because they don't view themselves as shit, and let's be real, most of them ain't shit. What they do is, yeah, they project on black men, and then on top of that, they create all these hurdles that you have to overcome before you can get with them,
Right.
because they know you're not going to put up with it, right? Because they know they ain't shit, and they know they're not going to put up with it, but they just want to put up these imaginary hurdles that they know you're not even going to attempt to jump over. And when you don't attempt to jump over, they know that they still don't have to look at themselves and say, I ain't shit, I need to fix myself. They can just say, oh, you just scared of a strong black woman.
Right. Right.
But what is really going on is they don't want to address themselves. You just scared of a strong black woman because you know I ain't shit, and you ain't gonna jump over all these imaginary hurdles I put up for you to get with me. Like what?
Right.
If they thought they were really worth something, the number one thing they wouldn't do is allow themselves to get pregnant by a low value man.
Exactly.
Because it would take them out of the market for a high value man. There's no millionaires besides Russell Westbrook. Not Russell Westbrook. Russell Wilson. I'm sorry.
Football player. Yeah.
Right. There's nobody but him. No millionaires other than him running around looking for baby mamas to marry, because they know it's a money trap.
You're liable.
Yeah.
She comes with liabilities.
Right. Right. And they, like I said, they know they aren't shit, but they project onto us. You know, they'll have 3 or 4 kids out of wedlock, and they'll see a guy with no kids, you know, making, you know, $70,000-$80,000 a year, and they'll tell him he ain't. I've had bitches who work at Walmart, making 25 grand a year on Section 8, and they're driving the most beat down, busted cars. Look at me in my brand new car, and I make a very high salary, and they'll tell me that I ain't shit. And I'm like, wait a minute. If I ain't shit and your standard of living is far below mine, what the fuck does that make you?
So, and so this is why I'm addressing, like, do women really know what to do with high value men? And see, we're getting all these people who are talking about the high value man, and women are saying, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm a 5, but I deserve a high value man because I have an education, I have a business. But she has no clue what he wants, when a lot of these women do. And even if she does look like a 10, she hasn't been prepared for how to engage that guy. That's why I brought up Henry Ford, because he worked in a machine shop. He wasn't even the smartest guy there. But damn if his wife was just the opposite of the women you're describing. His wife knew how to be there for him, share her network, and help pull out the best. So we saw who he was, because he was a really shy guy.
Right. So here's the thing with women. So women think that they can think like us, but what they don't realize is they can't. And here's what I mean by that. Men, when we look at women, we have 2 different classes of women. You know, we'll look at a woman and she might be fine, and we'll just say, you know, that woman is just fine, and we just want to fuck that woman. That's it. Right. She's not good for anything else. But then there are other women we'll see, and we're like, she may not be that fine. She's kind of cute though. She got a decent body, but that woman knows how to multitask. She knows how to help me start a business. She knows how to network. She could bring value to my life. You know, she looks like she'd be a great mother. That's the woman that you marry, not this woman who's fine, who's just a fuck toy.
Right. Exactly.
And there was another point. It's funny, you know what I mean? When they talk about being entrepreneurs, I looked this up the other day, and I was dying laughing.
Chris, before you say it, I'm going to take a guess, because I haven't looked this up, and if I'm maybe way off, but I'm guessing the reason why Black women are going into entrepreneurship is because they're not getting hired anymore. And they have no damn choice. I'm wondering if their hiring levels are dropping, and entrepreneurship is just a one-man show incorporating a business, saying, now I'm an entrepreneur.
Well, it's almost as bad. The jobs that they qualify for are very low paying jobs. So most
Okay.
of them on average earn less than like 40 grand a year.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So what they're doing is now that they're trying to all become entrepreneurs is what they're calling themselves, right? So they start these businesses, right? Um, Trucking, a lot of them starting truck companies now. Hair
Really?
salons, nail salons, and but if you look at the businesses they start, right, and then you go to the Better Business Bureau and you look up the top 10 businesses that fail within their first year, it's all the businesses that they opened.
Right.
Literally, restaurants, hair salons, trucking companies, like it's all the ones that they opened.
In the nail salons, they don't even support one another. They go to the Vietnamese or whoever else.
Right. Exactly. So, I had a cousin, she I have a cousin. She 2 weeks ago, she told me she was gonna be, in Richmond, Virginia, which is about 2 hours south. And I said, well, she said, I'm going to a convention to learn how to do sister locks, which is literally just take their hair and twist it up, right? That's it. And I'm like, you're going to pay somebody to teach you how to do this? You can go watch a YouTube video for free right now to learn how to do this, right? But she's going to a seminar, going to pay somebody to teach her how to do this, and then go start her own business. I'm like, not only are you going to pay somebody to teach you how to do something you can learn for free, but then you're going to start a business doing it that's guaranteed to fail within the first year. Like, it's just like it's not smart. And this is the same cousin who used to try to give me career advice. And now I'm making more money than her. I literally make twice as much as her.
Oh, wow.
And before, she used to try to give me, like, she had no idea what I did for a living, right? Didn't even ask, didn't even, wonder how much I make, didn't even inquire. Because if she would ask me, I would have told her. But without knowing any of that, she started offering me career advice. And I'm just looking at her like, yeah, okay. sounds if you really want me to take that pay cut, I guess. But yeah, but what she was doing was she knew she wasn't making enough money, and that if she could, she would take that job. So it goes back to what you were saying. They know they ain't shit, so they're just gonna project it on you,
Right.
right? Now, fast forward, like we had that conversation 5 years ago. So 2 weeks ago, when she told me about the sister locks, I finally told her what I did for a living. And like I could hear the excitement in her voice. She was like, "Oh my God, can you help me do that?" And I'm like, this is a
Wow.
woman who's been to college, right? And like one or two college classes away from her degree, and she's asking me to write her resume.
Interesting. Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So like I said, they black women are just, they're perpetual idiots. They're like a broken record that plays a stupid song and it's stuck on that song. Like the needle will not move. And no matter how much you tell them, hey, you might need to pick that needle up and just set it over, an inch or two so it goes on to the next song, they refuse to do it. They just keep letting that stupid loop around.
They'll tell you you don't understand them.
Right.
Or you
They're
can't
going to put it
handle
all
me.
back on you.
You can't handle me.
Yeah, you can't handle me. Like, animals are the only thing that need to be fucking handled. So if you want me to treat me like an animal, fine, I'll go get my gun and I'll shoot you.
So I guess my biggest concern is the level of projection and what they are projecting, because so then you have to wonder, then why are they being raised to have such a low view of themselves? I mean, black women in general are more defensive than anyone else in the US, in the world. Even if you look at black women from the Caribbean or Africa, they are not as defensive as the women here. And they do a great job here of attempting to, it's like I was saying, the feminists have taught them everyone is equal. So you tell men you're all the same. And if all of you ain't shit, then I'm treating all of you like you ain't shit. And all of you just want one thing, and that's the way I treat you. So when they meet a guy who's about more, they have no clue what to do. And even if you tell them, they'll try and debate with you and tell you that you're just another man.
Right. When as men we know we don't treat each other equal. Like you were saying earlier. Like take for instance when we were all young, when we were young, we had that one friend with a car, right?
Right.
Friday night comes, we all want to go out, right? And this friend with the car may not have the ability to get girls, right? So what we're gonna do is like understand that like if we go somewhere and we get this dude to take us somewhere and he can't get no girls, he's gonna want to leave. So we got that one friend who's got his parents got money, and we got that one friend with the car. So we got to get them two together because that one guy's going to give him gas money, and then you got the one guy who can go get the girls for all three of us. Now we just network, and we're all three going to have a good time, right?
Right.
They don't understand that. They're so selfish, and solipsism is such a big part of their life. They don't understand what it takes, what the word cooperation truly means.
Right. And there's a hierarchy within that cooperation. You have
Right.
to know who's good at what and honor them for that. You can't make everyone equal because, okay, then you can't all four of you go out with your cars and then you just say, hey, that one guy doesn't know how to talk to girls, so forget him. Let him go home. We're not depending on him. And that's kind of how women have been raised. Even fathers are raising their daughters. I don't want you ever depending on a man. And I think that's a problem. Men need to rethink how they're raising their daughters. They're not
Yes.
thinking about community. Because if you're telling your daughter, I don't want you to depend on men, you're already scaring her. Like, well, why,
Yes.
daddy? Men ain't shit. Like, if your father's telling you that men only want one thing, it becomes difficult to have a conversation with a woman who says, well, my daddy taught me that.
Yeah, it is. And it's sad that I see men now with daughters that know women going to college pretty much takes them out the marketplace for a
Right.
husband when they need that husband. They're going to need that husband to survive. And instead of teaching them to, hey, look, maybe put off college for a couple years, get married, find a guy in high school who has the potential. Don't just waste your high school years spread your legs for the entire basketball team when only 1% of basketball players in the entire country make the NBA. Instead, find that nerd who might become an engineer and create something. Become his girlfriend. Push him to go to school, further his
Exactly.
education. Build something, be his wife, have his kids, and then when your kids are old enough where they can, think for themselves, where they're self-sufficient, they can speak and everything. Tell you if somebody's harming them or not. You send them off to school, and then you go to college. Maybe you start your own business then. But until then, I'm sorry. If you really don't want to be miserable in life, that's the route you should take. Now, if you just want to be an angry, miserable, post-war potential lesbian, go to college when you get out of high school. Just understand that is the path you chose. You chose to be a woman with 2 or 3 kids out of wedlock, angry at the world because you can't get a man, can't get a husband, and now you're possibly going to end up licking clam. If that's the path you want to take, hey, more power to you. But just understand that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking also, that a lot of men are raising their daughters to be lesbians. They really don't realize that.
Yeah, they don't.
If you teach your daughter that men are a problem and you don't want to depend on them, it's like, well, why, daddy? Why don't I want to depend on a man? You're my father. Why are you warning me against men? Like, why not teach her how to find a guy who has the kind of values that will take good care of your daughter and your grandchildren? Why not teach her that?
I'll tell you why. And it's gonna hurt a lot of their feelings because most of them are scared of their daughters. Most of them are scared to do something so simple as slap the shit out of their daughters when their daughters disrespect them. My own sister, I remember, and I at my father's wake when she started crying, I really wanted to punch her in the face. The only thing that made me restrain myself was because I wanted to cherish the last 2 minutes I was going to see my father's face, because I got to the wake late because I had to drive across the country. And so they actually held the funeral home open for me, like a half hour past his closing time.
Oh, wow.
So I only had like a very brief few moments to see him, and to see her there crying over his dead body when I know when she was 15 years old, she said, she wanted to go to a party, and my father told her no. And she told my father, "You don't tell me what to do. I'm going anyway." And my father slapped the shit out of her. And after he slapped her, she called the police. And
Whoa.
yes, and to see the police come to my father's door and question him about disciplining the child, you know what? If I was him, the police, when they would have come to the door, they'd have just been coming to collect me to take me to prison because she'd have been dead. But she had no qualms in calling the police because my father slapped the shit out of her, and I to this day I still don't forgive her for that, because
Wow.
it's something she shouldn't have done, and it's I have a lot of animosity towards her because of that, and mainly because my father gave her more than me. My father knew that like I was the easy kid to please, she was the one who was constantly asking for new clothes, constantly asking for jewelry. I didn't even wear jewelry. I don't like jewelry. My father
Right.
bought me a chain, a herringbone chain when I was like 14 years old. I put it on. I looked in the mirror and I was like, "Nah, this ain't me." I took it off and I gave it right back to him. I was like, "Take it back and get your money back." He gave it to her, and I don't know what the hell she did with it. But like 6 months later, she didn't have it anymore. But
Wow.
but he spoiled her basically. And to see her when she called the cops on him, like I actually like I'm not even gonna I can say this now, but I actually thought about killing her in her sleep that night. I was literally gonna
Wow.
go in the kitchen and get a knife and stab her in her fucking sleep because she pissed me off that much when she called the cops on my father.
Wow.
And to this day, all she does is make fucked up decisions. And when she called the cops, like it made my father feel for her because he didn't want to go to jail. Where he should, like I said, on every show, they can't lock us all up. They don't have the jail space. So men need to stop being scared of their daughters, but that's the problem. These men that keep telling their daughters to go to college instead of getting a husband, they're literally scared of their daughters. I don't care what they say, they are. They're scared of, number one, falling out of favor with their daughters, and they're scared of the daughter potentially calling the cops on them. When instead of who's that one guy they called on the show last Sunday? Edwin.
Oh, Edwin. Right. Yes.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's the approach they need to take. Hey,
Right.
you don't want to listen to me? Fine, get the fuck out of my house.
And that's
Don't
what I
don't
would
talk to
say.
me.
Right. If exactly your teenager is telling you we live in a 3,500 square foot house, it's too small because my cousin lives in a 10,000, pack up and leave. If you don't
Right.
like the way things are going, and if men dealt with all women the same exact way, you don't like the way things are going. Yes, we didn't hire you in this company because it was created by men, and the job you want is better served by a man. There are jobs that are good for women. You don't qualify, or we're not hiring. So if you don't like that, then all the women who don't like it pack up. We'll help you find an island. We'll put you on one of those cruise ships, the Princes. However many we need, and we'll take 1 million, 10 million of you, ship you off to an island, and you can chop down the wood and build your own manufacturing and mine for gold, iron, and all that. I mean, if women were told that, then they would have a very different attitude towards men and what it takes to build this a civilization.
You know why they won't do it, Ted?
Because they
Because they know.
lost their balls a long time ago.
Well, that's part of the reason. But they know that men are such problem solvers that once we got them all together on that boat,
We'll
we
go
will
help.
wait for that. We will wait for that boat to get out in open waters. Then we would torpedo the fuck out of it, so we would never have a problem about it ever again. It would be Titanic 2.0. Except in this time nobody survives.
Now, who wants to get on the next boat going to that island?
Right. The next batch of feminists stand up. I guarantee you no woman would ever raise her hand. But yeah, like you said earlier, feminism only exists because we allow it. As men, as a men, we were put on this planet to inherit the earth. And somehow along the way, men have forgotten that. Men have forgotten how to stand up for themselves and how to be willing. you know, the price. Here's one thing. Here's one reason why nobody messes with. I don't know if you know who Grandmaster Jay, the NFAC leader, is, and how he got arrested. You
No,
know,
no.
yeah, the leader of the NFAC, the black militia, whatever. Well, he got arrested last week, right? After leading all those protests in Georgia with the guns and everything. Well, you don't see police arresting white militiamen. And you know why? Because they know that if they go to get one of those white militiamen, that those guys are willing to die.
They'll fight. Exactly.
Because they understand one thing: the price of freedom isn't free, and sometimes you have to pay it in blood. And as black men, we have forgotten that. We have forgotten that. We have forgotten that sometimes, okay, yeah, you may have to die, but you may have to die so your sons can live, so your sons don't have to go through the things that you go through. That's why nobody messes with Arab men. That's why nobody messes with Asian men. Nobody messes with hell, even Caribbean men. Most of them though, and Mexican men too. You go to Mexico and you pop that shit to the wrong Mexican man, you know, he may pull out a machete and cut your throat.
Exactly.
Black men have become the weakest, well, the second weakest, because I still say white men are weak because they're the ones who are pretty much using the laws to force black men to become eunuchs like them. But yeah,
No, but remember a few months ago, a white woman, she's some political pundit, she got on to YouTube and said men are crap and blah blah. The next day she apologized because men came down on her like a ton of bricks.
okay, well, there you have it.
She
But
apologized the very next day.
right, but it's still, I still say it's white men creating the laws that are making men eunuchs. Like the no fault divorce could end tomorrow. If all the white men in the Supreme Court would just say, yeah, this shit is done. You know, we're not doing this anymore.
Right. It doesn't
You
work.
know,
Right.
or if police are trained under the loose model, which means that whenever they go to a domestic call, the man is automatically assumed the aggressor.
Correct.
That could change tomorrow if every police chief just stopped teaching it. Said like, look, this is bullshit. We have the FBI stats to show that women are the aggressors. Women initiate most domestic violence. We're not, when we get to the crime scene, to the scene of a domestic call, we're going to go by the actual stats, which is we're going to assume the women are the aggressors, or we're just going to take a look at the evidence we have. We're not just going to take her word for it just because she's crying,
Right, exactly.
even though she's crying and he's the one with all the scratches and the blood all over him. So it's them. It's the laws that they create and enforce, which, you know, most men, like I said, they're scared. They're scared for their lives. They don't understand that, you know, hey, sometimes you might have to give up your life so the next man doesn't have to.
Well, see this is giving women this entitlement that they can do whatever they want without consequences.
Yes.
So then when they do meet a guy who really is worth something, they have no training, no idea how to engage him, and they squander it. And then they'll turn around and say, well, he was just arrogant. He wasn't right for me. He was educated lame. He was a nerd. You know, all these names, all these justifications. And they're squandering these men and then get upset. Well, when the men say, hey, well, I heard DR, they treat us better, or Brazil or somewhere else. And the women get upset and say, well, why are you doing that? They can play dumb if they want. And I think it's really up to men to really lay down the law and put their foot on a woman's neck. And if she doesn't like it, go to the next guy. And if he does the same thing, they will see there's nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. Unless you get on that princess and hop over to that island and build your own civilization.
Right.
Men haven't been willing to do that, and there are more and more guys. I think a lot of the younger guys are starting to see that because they watch the ugly divorces and they watch their mother's behavior. So that less and less younger guys are marrying, what the problem is, you have these older guys who will try and save these women and tell the younger guys what they're doing is wrong, and that just perpetuates. And some of these older guys don't even have children. They don't even realize they will never qualify for the woman they want.
Right. And unfortunately for women, with the explosion of single motherhood, we know women don't respect other women. We know women don't even like other women, right? And the sons that they're having, since they're being raised by women, they have that same animosity towards women. So women don't realize that they're creating their own demise. And so
Correct.
this next uh, group of men coming up, not only do they see this thought and WAP culture, they realize that these women they're not marriage material. So they just use them as for sex. And women don't realize that they're not only are they creating this, that uh they're it's their fault, it's
They're educating their sons on social dynamics and not
right.
realizing that these boys see more than they realize, and they're actually learning at a young age. They don't even have to respect their mother at like less than 10 years old. They don't even have to respect her.
Right. These women don't realize that by the time their sons are 15 years old, the majority of the time his IQ is higher than theirs.
Yeah, in a lot of cases. In some cases, these women are abusive, though, and that creates a bottleneck in intelligence if you keep abusing a boy.
It does, but I would say this, that the woman that abuses her boy has been abused herself.
Exactly.
And because she's been abused, her IQ is still at a low level. So I would still
Right.
say that his IQ is, even though it's been stunted because of the trauma that he's been through, his IQ is still higher than hers.
And she won't realize it. And that gets back to uh, so that means she's not even suitable to be a mother.
No, most of them aren't.
She cannot create a high value man because one is IQ, and two, she's going to end up projecting herself. That's where her abuse, imposing trauma on his son, is just really imposing. And it's unfortunate she may have gone through some trauma herself. Then that's even more reason for her to not have any children at all.
Right, right. But as usual, they have what, like 16 forms of birth control, something like that. It's a very high number compared to men. Men, we got the condom, we got the pull out method, and abstinent.
Right.
Well, and jacking off, if you want to throw that one in there too. So that's all we have to keep a woman from getting pregnant. But they have like 16 or 17 different ways to keep them getting pregnant. And then even when they do get pregnant, like, they still have 3 or 4 ways to avoid responsibility for taking care of the child. But
Right.
somehow, when they bring a child into this world, they still put all the responsibility on the man.
The man is responsible for the woman's uterus.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't, when I first heard that, I was really shocked. I thought it was a joke. But if you look at Asians in the United States, the teen pregnancy rate is like, I think it's under 4. It's around low 4s or high 3%. So that says something about the way they are training their girls. Now, what a lot of women will say, well, that's because they teach their sons. No, they teach the girls, you're 100% responsible for your uterus. And you are.
Yes. And not only that, they will be exiled by the family if they do become a teen mom. Whereas if you look at our community particularly, baby showers, people don't understand this. Baby showers were really only meant for that firstborn, right? That's it. Traditionally, the firstborn, and the celebration, you had your first one, right? Your firstborn child. But what do Black women do with every single child? They want a baby shower. So they want all this praise and adoration for simply laying on their back and spreading their legs. As if that took a lot of work.
Well, did you hear about that guy? I mean, the woman who was in a coma and was impregnated in a hospital?
By the nurse, the male nurse.
The male nurse, right.
Yeah, yeah.
So when women say that it's a big accomplishment to get pregnant, they actually do nothing. A woman in a coma can do the same thing.
Right. A woman in a coma can do this, and you're boasting about it. Like you literally did nothing but spread your legs and let your reproductive organs do what they do. They
Right.
didn't need any input from you to do it. They were
Nothing.
just going to do it anyway.
If, in fact, it was the man who actually did the work by planting the seed in you. And see, and that's that. I was thinking about that in relationship to a high value man. It's like, so you ask women what you say, look, men have built civilization. And they say, well, women support it. Okay, when women support it, tell me the exact role they did in supporting. And all they either say you're misogynist or sexist, or they say, well, we had babies. Well, a woman in a coma can do that. So tell me how you support it. Because if a comatose woman can do what you did, tell me why you are not just some simple commodity. Because
Well,
we could technically put a whole bunch of millions of women in a coma, impregnate them, and feed them intravenously, and just harvest the babies. We don't
right,
need.
right. Well, they seriously convinced themselves that just because they have babies, that they're the ones creating life. No, no, no. That life still comes from a man's nutsack.
Exactly.
You are just a human easy bake oven, and you create life no more than an oven creates a cake. An oven
Exactly.
just bakes the cake.
Right.
That's all you do. You're
Right.
just a walking oven, and that's another reason why it's so easy for them to abandon their kids, to kill their kids, to just drop their kids off at anybody and go to the club, because an oven can care no more about a cake once it bakes it than a woman can care about a child once she's given birth.
No question. No question. And especially when you have these mental illnesses like hybristophilia, and these women are deficient in certain neurochemicals that create bonding. If they have sex with too many men, they're going to be off, and they will not bond with those children. They will not care about them.
Right. And their babies are oops babies anyway. They didn't plan them. So their babies are effectively burdens that they didn't want.
Well, aside if they can create a paycheck one way or another, the government or child support, they
Right.
may
Most of the time it's
they may
government
use
because
it as a source of income.
right. Most of the time it's usually in government subsidies because the men that they choose to procreate with, uh, I know I have all my friends that are high value men, none of them have children, right? The ones that do are married. The ones that aren't high value men, the ones that are 40 years old and just now getting, full-time jobs at Burger King are all on child support, and they pay like $25 a month for child support.
Wow, wow.
These guys literally go out and like they might cut grass twice a week, or they do something work where they only have to work once or twice a week just to pay off their child support, and like the rest of the time they find some other stupid girl to lay up on it, and she just lets them do it.
Mm. So then it's so what I'm getting at with this whole, if women have no idea how to deal with a high value man, or the unicorn, the savant, it's men collectively that have to serve almost like a brick wall of masculinity, and tell women that you can't go beyond this boundary. You don't belong here. Just like we don't let women get on the football field and in the NFL. We don't let women get in the ring with Mike Tyson because we understand the consequences.
Right, right. But they're
And
still telling
so,
us
go
they
ahead.
tell us because we don't do it that we don't want equality for them.
No, we don't need equality with women. Just like men have. See, this is why I was saying in the beginning, women want to kill off the hierarchy. Without a hierarchy, they can fit in and say we're all equal. So we
Right,
suck. And then you start to hire mediocre people, and that makes it easier for women to hide. But if you if you let men continue with their hierarchy, we will have high performance because we will know how to leverage the best in certain areas. The
right,
simple man will play his role. The intelligent man will play his role. The guy who's a leader, the guy who's a chemist, the guy who's a good finance guy. They're all going to fit in somewhere. And there will be hierarchy, just like we had in the playground as boys. We know how to do that.
Right. And every guy on every tier is going to strive to be the best on his tier. He may not want to move up to the next tier. He may be happy on being on that bottom tier. He
Right.
may be happy just being just moving boxes around on the low tier. But what he's going
Correct.
to do is find the best way to maximize his job at that level.
Exactly. Exactly. And he'll respect the man who's above him because there's a hierarchy.
Right. Yeah, they don't understand that. They just there's so many things that they don't understand, and so much knowledge that they can only get from men, because as men we're held to a higher standard, not them. So that's what happens when you're not held to any standard. When you're not held to any standard, you don't understand anything, because there's no repercussions or no consequences for anything you do, and it just makes for a very stupid individual.
So then it's going to have to, that's what I'm getting at. It's not just the so-called high value man. And I use that title because people are familiar with it. And people have been talking about it, but it's really has to be all men. Men cannot be afraid to put a hierarchy in place. And in your relationship as a man, you cannot be afraid to have a hierarchy with your woman.
You cannot be afraid to have a hierarchy or have standards and boundaries that you absolutely positively will not cross, or she allow her to cross.
Exactly. Right. Right. She has to know where the lines are. That's enough. You will not treat me like that. Look, just imagine, imagine you are a man with a high IQ, and this woman is dealing with you the same way she deals with a low IQ. Or you're a man who's really faithful, and she's dealing with you the same way she deals with an unfaithful man, because she has no way of distinguishing between one or the other. So a man is a man is a man. They're all the same. All right. I've heard psychologists say people who are unable to distinguish anything are that's one that's one way of defining insanity. People who are insane lack distinctions. So the woman who treats all men the same, the guy who's faithful and the guy who's unfaithful, the guy who's a convict and the guy who's heading up the corporate ladder, if they're all the same to her, that's some level of insanity on her part. And men need to also become smarter about impregnating those kinds of women.
Absolutely right. I'll give you an example. I dated a girl. She was an Air Force chick, and she had just broken up with a guy. This guy was a simp. This guy, he made good money, and he worshiped the ground. He walked on. She could kick him out of her house, and he get around the corner, 7-Eleven, halfway home or whatever. She could call him and say, "I'm sorry, come back."
Wow.
Oh, and stop at the store and get me something to drink, on your way back. And he would do it, right? So I remember I was over her house and one day she did something, and I was like, you know what? You're just one dumb bitch, right? And she's like, what did I tell you about calling? She's like, you can get out. I was like, yeah, absolutely right. I can. I was like, I'm not gonna argue with you. I'll leave. I left. I got about halfway home. My cell phone rang. I'm sorry, can you come back? I said, bitch, do you know how high gas is? I said, no. I said, I tell you what, I might see you tomorrow. I might not. I was like, but I damn sure ain't coming back tonight. No, you should have thought about that shit before you went and started acting stupid.
Right. Exactly.
And all I did is hear with tears on the phone. She had never had anybody put her in a place like that. As a matter of fact, I'm willing to say that I'm probably the first man to call her a bitch. Because that was the number one thing where all the time I told you I don't like it when you call me that name. I said, well, stop making me call you that name. You stop making me call you that name, and I'll stop calling you that name. That is the deal that I will make with you.
What did she say?
Her exact words, I kid you not, was, well, next time you call me a bitch, I'm just going to get my gun. I said, that's fine. I got one too. I said, remember, you have anxiety. I don't. I said, so before you even load your gun, I already have 3 rounds in your chest. I said, so if that's the game you want to play, I'll be the last man standing. and she was a ball of tears, and I didn't hear from her for the rest of the day, which was cool because I was watching a show on the History Channel, so she didn't bother me.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, but it was I hate having to deal with women like this. You really hate having to deal with them harshly, but they don't understand it. So the only time that they come off their soapbox and stop action is when you do put your foot on their neck. When you put your foot on their neck, the bullshit stops because they understand that you're not going to take it anymore. But as long as they know they can push and push and push you, they're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, with the amount of men walking away, I think it seems theoretically that more men will be able to do it. I think the biggest problem is, like you said, one is the fathers who are scared of their daughters who will reinforce bad behavior, and the guys who are so desperate for sex. And it's crazy because they're acting desperate for sex and they have 10 baby mamas. So how are you desperate for sex?
Right. And sex is the easiest thing to get from them now because we live in a whore culture.
Exactly.
Like I seen a video last week where a woman had sex with a guy for a can of Pringles, and it was like a soda.
Yeah.
That's like $5. But here's a funny thing, right? So men are walking away, and more of them are starting to have these lesbian relationships. Well, even the studs are starting to walk away now, where the studs have like their own kind of MGTOW movement. It's absolutely hilarious.
Very interesting.
It's like lesbians going their own way or something. It's like, what the fuck?
Really?
Yeah, women have just become nature's court jesters. Like they're just here for our laughter now.
Wow. The thing about projecting themselves onto men is a lot of them attempt to hide that projection and say, make claims of being highly intelligent or something like that. And that gets actually ugly when they pretend to be something they are not, especially when they meet someone who actually is what they are pretending to be, and they come face to face with the limits of their own intelligence and decision making. So that's where they end up becoming very defensive, and that's a waste of time. Now, and if they're scared of, especially if we look at Black women in particular, well, if you're successful, you're going to leave and go to Hispanic or whatever other woman. So they end up sabotaging the relationship or sabotaging your success because they believe if they can keep you lower than what you have, what you're able to do, you'll stick or they'll keep you.
Right. Well,
I assume they'll believe they have some control in that situation, which is delusional.
Right. Look at the delusional thing that they say, that they're the most educated group in America, right? Now, they only make up 6% of the population, right? And we know all 6% don't have degrees. I'm going to venture to say that only about half of them, so 3% of them have degrees. Well, I don't know an Asian woman without a degree, right? And they make up about the same percentage of Black women.
Right.
White women who are what I think there are 4 or 5 times as many white women in this country as Black women, right? So let's just say only half of white women got college degrees, right? Which I would venture to say that's so, half of them have degrees. It's still more than the total number of Black women if all Black women were to get college degrees.
Right. Yep.
But no matter this same group that calls themselves the most educated, when you run numbers and statistics by them, they don't understand it. You get this deer headlights look because they're not educated. The only thing they know how to do is parrot things that they heard. I heard somebody say this, so I'm going to say it too. It doesn't matter that I have no evidence. And if you provide me evidence that it isn't true, I'm still going to keep repeating what I heard because Polly just wants a fucking cracker.
And that's exactly what feminism has been successful in doing, in getting women to just parrot things without, they don't understand the long-term consequences, they don't understand the big picture, and they don't understand that they actually need men, and men could actually walk away. I mean, they're creating artificial uteruses. They already have an artificial egg, so they could actually put women on an island, and be the island of prostitution. Since they want a whore culture, you just go there, you have sex, and you leave. And if you want children, you can either use a real surrogate or the artificial womb. So women are closing they're stealing a coffin on themselves and bragging that they're winning. And in the 80s, I said we're eventually going to find out why the Greeks made women property. Because
Right.
if you give them an inch, they want to take 100 miles. And the fact of the matter, the ones who said to make women property were the oracles, which were always women. So why is it that women understood that you should put a cap on women? Like, what is it they know that we don't know, or we're about to find out?
I don't think it's that we don't know. I think women know that they can deal with women the way women are supposed to be dealt with, and they won't face any backlash. Whereas men, you're always going to have some simp willing to jump out the window for them, and put your life in danger. And it's because too many men don't realize, okay, you're going to have to lay these simps down. Whereas women know they have no repercussions for, even right now, if you start having an argument with a woman or whatever, you go get your sister, go get your aunt, go get somebody in your family member. I guarantee you, they will back the fuck down, because they know that other woman, she ain't gonna talk to them. She's just gonna put hands on them. Whereas we have to exercise restraint, because the minute we pop them, there's always gonna be about 20 men ready to jump on us. Whereas nobody's gonna say anything if another woman beats her ass.
Yeah, they've even done experiments to show that. And so that's a problem, because even if you look in a workforce, if two men are verbally going at it, they know ultimately that they have a way of solving it. So either we're going to talk this through, or we're going to do this as a man does it, and that can be ugly.
Right.
Women think they can engage us the same way without understanding that men understand the consequences. She's doing it understanding there are no consequences. So she has no boundaries. And then we'll turn around and say, you see, I'm too tough. You can't handle me. Well, if a man did that, I would have broken his jaw by now.
Right. They don't understand that we all have this line in the sand that we draw, right? And we'll take being pushed, up to a certain point. But once you cross that line, we know, okay, I've tried to use words. Words haven't worked. Now it's time to get physical. They don't understand that. And it's simply because we haven't been doing it. And I'm saying it should happen more. And all these simps that want to, stand up and stop us from doing it, they need to be dealt with too. Because just like a child, they understand that children need discipline. They have no problem hitting an individual or disciplining an individual smaller than them. But they don't understand that as a man, sometimes we need to discipline them, and sometimes that requires us to be physical with them. And it doesn't matter that they're smaller than us, because they don't care about hitting their children that are smaller than them.
Right, exactly.
So why should we care about hitting them when they're smaller than us? They still need that discipline. Right. They need that discipline because words don't work.
Right. If we want order in society. I think in an old John Wayne movie, he put some woman over his lap and pulled out his belt.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I remember that movie. I can't think of the name of it, but yeah, I watched that movie with my dad. Yeah. They just, it doesn't, it's in society's only, they're really collapsing society. They're doing it. It's happening slowly, but they're doing it. It may even be sped up now with with this the new regime, I should say, that we have in our office now, because they're already starting to roll back some of the positive things that Trump did, like the Fair Trade Act and all that stuff.
Well, let's see what. Here's one fact still on the table: 900,000 women left the workforce.
Oh yeah, and it's even worse because they can't return, because now the country is going back into a
Yeah,
lockdown,
exactly.
and even the money. See, they hated Trump, but Trump gave them more money than the Democrats that they just voted in is willing to give them.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they don't even. That's why I say they're irresponsible with their voting rights. So they shouldn't even have them. They were too stupid to understand that this man gave you $1,200 and he's willing to give you another 1,200 and all the things you had before, because he understands the economic effect that the this COVID has had. But
Right.
no, you just didn't like him. You didn't like them, so you wanted to vote in these Democrats, and now that you voted them in, they're saying that we ain't giving you shit.
Huh.
Like, and we tried to warn you that, we tried to warn you, hey, you don't want to vote these guys in because bad things are going to happen for you, but
Right.
you did it anyway, just simply because you didn't like the other guy who was doing his best to try to help you.
Yeah. So ultimately, it's not women that have to change. Actually, it's
No,
really.
it's really men. It's really men. We have to go back. We have to go back to being men. And and just like back in the 20s or whatever, when if a woman wanted to be a single mom or whatever, okay, fine, you're exiled, nobody's going to come do for you. You're going to be labeled as the widow such and such, and you're just going to be exiled.
You're the village whore.
Right. Nobody's really going to associate with you in public, because and the other women, they aren't going to associate with you because they want husbands. So they're
Right.
not going to want to be seen hanging around you because they don't want any man to reject them.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it's amazing how when men treated women like that, women were the happiest they've ever been in the history of this country.
And they were protected.
They were protected, right? And now they're unhappy, and they've got them. They're so unhappy, they got them legalizing heroin just so they can escape
I
the
heard about
reality.
that. Where is
Just
that in Oregon?
Oregon. Legalizing heroin just so they can escape the reality that they built for themselves.
And
Like how?
do you know who is the? You may have heard me say it. The fastest growing segment of heroin users in the U.S. Do you know who that is? Demographically,
Who's that?
women who earn high incomes.
I can believe it. I can believe it.
Isn't that crazy? So you don't hear about women who are like Steve Jobs, no college degree and becomes a billionaire. The women who have high incomes, that means she went to college and she has an education and she has a
Right.
job or she has some company. And how can you be a well-educated woman making a lot of money using heroin? I mean, that says a lot about our society and it's in decision making. So a whore culture and a drug addict culture.
Right. Well, in the
And
80s, didn't they use powder cocaine? Weren't most of the women in corporate America like
well,
using that
no,
on powder cocaine?
forget the 80s. The 80s was always a rich man's high. That's what lawyers and doctors used it because they worked outrageous hours. Entertainers, people who were entertainers were always on the road. So it was always considered a rich man high. When Reagan came into office, the streets were flooded with coke. So a kilo that used to cost 40 grand was now dropped down to 30, 20, 50. I think it went down to 10 grand for a kilo, same kilo.
Wow.
So that meant it was abundant for everyone. What was $100 of coke, you were getting $200 of coke for $100. So it was candy.
Right.
And then it went to a cheaper form, which was crack. That was late 80s.
Right.
But anyway, so
But yeah, you have all these women self medicating with liquor and drugs.
Right. Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it's
Good.
simply just because they can't handle the high stress environments that they put themselves in. They're not built for these high stress, high paying jobs. They're not
Well,
built
and
for them.
it
They
wasn't built for women. It wasn't. I just started watching this movie. It's a Rod Serling. He's the creator of Twilight Zone. It's a movie made in 1956, and I've only watched like the first 30 minutes. It's called Patterns, like pattern recognition. It's just called Pattern, and
Mhm.
it's interesting because all 100% of the women working in this company, and this looks like the scene is going to be on the executive suite floor. I think it's in New York, and 100% of the women are executive assistants to these executives. That's it. And these women they're being presented as sharp. These women are sharp. They're professional, except they are a support structure. They're not in the high profile, high pressure job. And it's interesting watching the social interaction with that. And the women are dressed professionally. They know their job. They do it well. We've changed that. And we put women in the actual high pressure job. And that's because we've gotten rid of hierarchies so that they can fit in and they don't have to perform as well as men. We've lowered the bar. We got rid of hierarchy and said, well, she's a woman, so we're giving her allowances to not have to perform, and we'll pay her more than a man just because she's a woman. I mean, I'm not sure how long people think that can last.
Right. And I said this before, like, the number one destroyer of companies is female CEOs.
And
They when they get in these positions of power, they know they can't handle them. But what do? With with the CFOs and everybody up under them,
make them women.
make them women, and that all that does is destroy the company.
Well, it's interesting. They've done some historian. He looked at all the women who were queens without a king on a throne, and those queens screwed up the economy. And to hide that, they declared war more often than the kings because war is business. By them having more wars, they could go in and rob other countries, pay the whoever the military companies were. And I don't care if this was in the time of the knights, someone had to make the swords and the armor and all the equipment, and so that stimulated the economy. Except they were already screwing up. The kings are less likely to declare war than women.
Right. Because kings know that their workhorses are men, so they're going to keep the men in power. If you look at England right now, the Queen of England, that country is in shambles, and they're doing everything they can to try to generate income because they have a country full of empowered women to the point where just even cursing at a woman could get you. There was a homeless guy who walked by a restaurant in England, and he stared. He looked through the window, and he was just staring at a woman. He got arrested for that. She called the cops, and he got arrested. And the homeless guy thanked her. He said, "Thank you, because at least now I get 3 hots and a cot. So you're really not hurting me." But just think about that, where you can get arrested just for staring at a woman. So in all these countries, these places where they put women in power, all they do is mess up the economy so much that they have to find some way to recoup that money from men, because they still need men to pay for it, because women aren't going to pay for it.
Interesting. So closing thoughts. Do women know what to do with high value men, or do they just squander them?
They just squander them. They just squander them, just like they do with every other decision in their life.
What do you
They
think?
should.
What do you think men should do about that?
I think men should just let them fail. Let them fail, and or if you're going to get in a relationship with one, if you're going to get in a relationship with a woman, before you enter that relationship, you sit down with her, you tell her, hey, look, you're going to do this. This is the way it's going to go. You set the rules and boundaries because you're playing a very dangerous game. You know, you set the rules and boundaries, and the minute she breaks one of those rules and boundaries, do not even talk to her. Just walk the fuck away.
Consequences.
Consequences. They have to understand that there are consequences for their actions, and once you know one man does that to them, the next man won't have to.
And so that says something to all men then. So all men have to function in a very intelligent way in the way they deal with women and boundaries and the guidance that they're providing. Sometimes it might look like what people would call tough love because I told you what the boundaries were. We talked about it up front. You did things your own way, and now we're done. But when you get to the next guy, he understands that he's going to use the same rules of engagement, and he'll walk away. It might take 2 or 3 guys for her to go through and find out that no one's playing that game anymore. Because technically, what are women going to do? Beat us up?
Right.
What are they going to do? Stop building bridges and skyscrapers? They're going to stop creating industry? What are they going to do? Go on?
Yeah, are they gonna start fixing their own cars?
Right. They're going to go on strike for sex. Well, they're like I said, 7.5 billion. Most people on the planet are females, and they all have vaginas. So if you're going to strike for sex, and that is your what do they call that? That is your final frontier. That's your last stand. Then you'll really be left
That's
to
your
die.
Hail Mary.
Right.
But that's not even a Hail Mary, because if you haven't noticed, whenever they get pissed off, whenever they go on strike, what's the first thing they start doing? Taking their clothes off. Having these naked protests. It's like, okay, I used to have to go to a strip club to see titties, but now you're pissed off and you just want to pull your shirt off out in the middle of the street? Fine. You just saved me $10 cover charge.
Right. And women need sex. They need sex too. So, and some of them want to make it look like they're not being prostitutes. It's like, here's $200. I want you for the night. Well, you won't get me for the night. I'll do 2 hours. I mean, and meanwhile, she's an attorney, right?
Right. And they don't understand that is a small price to pay for a man to just fuck you and just have you not be as stressed in his life. I got my quick release. You go about your business. You that $200 you got is not going to last you as long as the pleasure that I'll have from not having to deal with your ass every fucking day.
So lay down the law up front, and I made a video I think 2 days ago, and I'm saying, so these guys who are afraid of their daughters, the guys who, whether you call them simps, and even the guys who claim they are not feminists, who really are, if they go abroad looking for women, a lot of men are going to bring the same mindset that they have here, which is to be a feminist, and they're going to create the same entitlement in another country, and they will not realize they're doing it. So that is, I have a word of caution. So either you can run to another country and find women there and then end up with the same entitlement, or you can do what Chris said, is create those boundaries up front. And if she doesn't want to abide by them, then you walk. And all men do that. Like, hands down, no hesitation. You set boundaries. I mean, honestly, what if you set boundaries? What is she going to do? Beat you up? If she doesn't like it, let her go. And if all men do that, where's she going? No man in China or Mexico is running to the U.S. looking for women. No one's coming here for U.S. women.
Right. And here's another question you should ask, Ted. If you set boundaries and she walks away, what did you really lose?
Exactly.
Nothing. Yeah. You actually gain something. You gain peace of mind because you're not wasting your time or your financial resources pursuing it,
exactly.
Running down a dead end.
Exactly. Right. She's already proved that she's dead end. And she's going to want to do things her way, which don't work. That's why she's in front of you. And no
Yeah.
one else wiped her for that reason. So, um, hey, man, I always love when you call in. I'm going to shut this down. I wanted to get that out. I really wanted to talk about not just what high value men looking for beautiful, fit women is that most women don't even qualify for a high value man because they
No.
really don't know what they're doing when they get with this guy and they don't understand the rules of engagement. And they believe having a vagina is enough to persuade him to do whatever they want him to do. And this guy didn't become successful by letting people manipulate him. So I
No.
just wonder, do women really actually understand that?
No, it's they've been because they've been raised by women. They don't, so it's up to them to educate them. Unfortunately, some of them are so old now that this education, number one, they won't take it in, and number two, even if they do take it in, it the only thing they can do is pass it along to a younger woman to say, hey, look, take this nugget, this nugget of knowledge that I can't benefit from, but you still have the opportunity to benefit from it. So heed this warning and listen to what these men are saying. Don't be like me.
So, ladies who are listening, share this with other women, whether they're older or younger. It's your daughter, your niece, your friend, or your sister, your mother. Guys, share this video. If you want to see some of my other content, check me out on Patreon. You'll see my Cash App and my PayPal here in the description below. And hey, Chris, thanks a lot.
Hey,
And
good talk, man. Good talk. I love these talks.
and I'll talk to everyone later. Take care. Have enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.
Yep.